Hello again. So, this here is a handheld bandsaw. So we've looked at the vertical bandsaw, the horizontal bandsaw, and now we got a handheld bandsaw you can carry around with you all day. Anyway, got a cord, plugs into electricity. This one's is a different brand than one we have at school. The one we had at school is yellow. This one's red and gray. And I got paint stuff all over it. I like to paint my tools. So what it has is a bandsaw blade that's smaller than the larger bandsaw, and teeth. It's gonna, when I pull the trigger, it's gonna run down like that. When you're doing the demo like that, I probably should leave it. I would definitely end up doing something stupid. Anyway, okay, so this is gonna run down like that. You wanna have the work, if you have a piece of pipe or something, it's gonna be against this. This blade is gonna pull that to that, so you don't necessarily wanna be, I'll show you that in a second here. But these rotate and that band moves that way. Generally speaking, there's a handle. I believe our one at school also has a handle in the front, and then the trigger back here. The one at school has a safety that I have to push in to get the trigger to work. So there's a little button on the side that you have to push the button in, then pull the trigger. This is older, no one worried about that then. And this is the blade tensioner. So that's not the handle. Hold on, if I wanted to release the blade and change the blade, or put a new blade, if it broke and I have to change it out, I would do that. This one is sort of exposed here, so I want to be careful of that blade. Ours at school has a little covering, a plate. So you're a little bit more protected. The one in school is a little more protection. Anyway, I want to plug this guy in and then reposition the camera so you guys can see what's happening. The places where my hands are, the trigger and this handle, are not where the blade and the moving parts are. Okay, so I'm not holding it from here, putting my hand anywhere near. You definitely, something I should have mentioned, I'll clamp this down. And with the angle grinders too, I wouldn't hold something here. The glove is not going to stop that blade from going, the blade would go right through that glove. So that's a lot more dangerous. You just wouldn't do that. Make sure you clamp the piece down, or the piece should be heavier, and mounted on something if you're going to cut it. So make sure your work is fixed. When I hold this plate again, so this blade's going to go this way, so if I start here and I pull the trigger, it's just going to slam it right against there. You'll notice our one at school, the plate's all bent up and stuff. So maybe we have to make a new one for school. But anyway, so I'm going to rest this part against the material. Okay, then I'll pull the trigger. And the harder I squeeze it, the faster it goes. With metal, you could put a little bit of that wax lubricant on here that we used on the vertical bandsaw. But with metal, you want to go a little slower with your speeds, as we talked about with the vertical bandsaw. So I'm going to start it out, and I'll pull the trigger, and I'm going to swing it down. And away it goes. So again, it just sort of cuts through it there. And you can kind of do other types of shapes and stuff, like, it doesn't have to be square like this. Rod and such will work pretty well on. So that's the handheld bandsaw. So this is a power shear. It has 2 blades, and the one we have at school is smaller than this, a little lighter, and it's actually better for like 18, I think it'll go to 16 gauge, but it's really good on 18 gauge, and you can turn tighter turns with it. It has smaller blades, so that can come in handy in turning tighter turns. This one's a little bit more beefier, but anyway, the same idea. It has a blade on the bottom and a blade on the top, and they're adjustable to get the right space between them. Just so you can, on the power shear, there's some feeler gauge. So I've got it at about 2 millimeters, a little bit hair more, probably good for 16 gauge. So if you're having trouble, you can check that, and those are adjustable, but come and ask. because it takes some time and finesse. And if you have them too tight, what'll happen is that'll slam down into that and destroy that piece. Now they should be, these ones are rotatable, but we don't want to, we don't want to destroy them. If you mess up that setting, you'll smash that hardened steel into that hardened steel blades, and you'll destroy it. And just so I think you can see sort of, so it's moving up and down the top one. So as you feed it along, it's cutting in. All right, that's what it's doing. It should be set, but sometimes it's getting if you're having trouble cutting, sometimes maybe you're forcing it, or the metal's too thick, or you might have grabbed a piece of steel that's not mild steel, but that might be a harder carbon steel that you didn't realize. Anyway, or stainless or something like that. So there's different types of steels have different hardnesses, so you got to be kind of careful. Aluminum, maybe just cut the heck out of. But anyway, so this blade on the bottom one is fixed, and the top one goes up and down, much like that bench shear and even the foot shear. And you can see they're at an angle. It's kind of hard to see on the foot shear, but that one's at an angle too. So that it's almost like a scissors cutting through, but it's kind of shearing down. So this is punching down. You don't want to have your fingers in there, obviously. Again, you want to keep your fingers back and away from the area where the movement is going. And the trigger is right here. You got to plug it in. You want to be careful of the sharp edges of the metal. Basically, I want to get the bottom plate underneath there, and then I'm going to pull the trigger. See how I'm like that. Like I said, the one at full has a smaller blade, so I can turn a tighter cut. See how tight I can turn this one. A tighter radius. So while, again, compared to a plasma cutter, it's a little slower and harder, but it gives you a nice, that cut is relatively clean. So with the plasma or torch, even if you do good, you got the settings right on the plasma cutter and you move at the right speed, you can get a pretty clean cut. But generally the shear will give you a cleaner cut. So that's the handheld power shear. All right. One of the things to be careful with when you're shearing metal, whether it's with the power shear or the bench shear, any of that, are these little pieces of metal that might end up coming off like that when you cut a little piece off. So that is pretty darn sharp. So make sure you clean those up, even the smaller ones too, and especially if they fall on the floor, because you got shoes that cover your feet, your toes, and your heel, but that might go up through the bottom of your foot. So make sure that when you're cutting stuff, you clean up afterwards. Not only good hygiene, but it's good safety. All right.